Tim Knudsen says between 2 and 5.75%. Why would a municipal bond rack up 5.75%? Why would the Bank of Ireland buy $75 million of that bond issue? Only because that bond was paying such a high interest, it was worthwhile for an out-of-country investor to get that kind of money and not take any advantage of being income tax-free at the state level. It's absolutely, truly amazing. And with another non-competitive contract was let. Jim Anderson was then the CIO of the county. Morgan Stanley, which had done the previous bond obligation paperwork, was just brought right back in and given the contract to put out the $95 million bond. What happens next? The Board of Supervisors gets a pile of paperwork in front of it. They vote yes. The thing goes out. Nobody truly understands that much of what's going on. And what shows up in the mail a week or two later is I call him the bond boy, the Morgan Stanley bond boy, sends in his bill of 1%. Supervisor Colfax just comes unwired. He says, "What's this? $975,000 is the premium I've got to pay this guy for this, and it's not included in what you put in front of us before?" The guy gets his money. He quits working for Morgan Stanley. Jim Anderson goes to Sonoma County.
And that was a $950,000 paycheck that he got. Is that correct?
It would be 1% of $95 million.
Yeah. So never approved by the board, never approved by either board.
They didn't even know it was coming. And maybe Jim didn't know it was coming either. We need outside, it's like, who does the audit?
Who's on first?
Who's doing the audit for close to $400 million?
Well, I think we know something about the auditor. Doesn't he work?
No, you're talking about Dennis Huey, who is the former auditor. Or are you talking about James Sly?
James Sly.
James Sly, to my knowledge, is a one-man shop. He's a CPA who audits the $300 million. And I guess how the money is invested. And my big concern is how often the bond portion of the fund is flipped. The paperwork that I had some comprehension of that was brought before the Board of Supervisors, I just saw way too much activity in and out of different bonds here and there. And I think that argues, if I may, of why the contract, the annual contract with Gordon Chan is so remarkably low. $100,000+ to look after $400 million.
So does he get paid? Well, here on Wall Street, we call these soft dollars. When a bond fund manager starts to flip bonds, when you have that kind of activity, that kind of a turnover,
you get a little kickback.
You get a kickback. You can.
And I'm telling you, there's nobody in this county that knows.
All right.
So in that case, an outside auditor. I mean, this happens with record companies all the time. You have your the record company auditor does the books, and of course the band makes no money. But on the flip side, the band, if the smart band, they have the books audited by their own auditor. So I think maybe even a dual auditing system might be way helpful here.
I think this is at the very least, this is what the Board of Supervisors should demand. Last night, in looking at, and incidentally, we have 3 minutes left, and I want the last minute for the show as a wrap-up. Last night, in researching some of the grand jury reports, I came across a very obscure county policy number 40, and in it, the Board of Supervisors assert only two things. Number one, that when it comes to the pension fund, their job is to quote-unquote safeguard the county. They didn't say that they were there to safeguard the retirees or anyone else, but they were there to safeguard the county. To me, that sounds like they're starting to distance themselves from the retirement plan. The second thing that they assert in that policy, again, this is policy number 40, is that an investment plan needs to be developed. In 4 years, I have never seen an investment plan. Any comment, Norman?
I've heard they exist, but also I've spoken to Janine Nadell, the Mendocino County Council, about policy number 40, and it makes a change. Yes, she was emphatic that it does not relieve or release the Board of Supervisors from its contractual obligation with the retirees. And this is a major, major concern of mine, because I have heard from one of the people in the administration of the retirement fund, does it really matter? if the fund doesn't make the money that it should, why worry about it? The Board of Supervisors has to back it up.
So the bottom line is,
it's going to come out of the taxpayer's pocket.
We're still on the hook.
And they cannot raise taxes, so it's going to come out of the general fund, start to wave goodbye to the bookmobile.
All right. Norman, I want to thank you very much for being on the show. I think later on today we're thinking about having lunch with that very same Merrill Lynch executives. I want to use this last 45 seconds just to respond to that personal attack yesterday about being an egotistical blowhard. I just want to say that I am related, and not distantly, to a gentleman by the name of Kazimierz Sakwoicz. Same last spelling of my name, Sakowicz. He was a freedom fighter, a resistance fighter during World War II in Poland, and he was also a journalist in civilian life. And he documented the extermination, the massacre of 100,000 Jews at Pornay before he was killed as a freedom fighter. I do as much as I can to live up to that name. I will never live up to that name. In some small part, I try to live up to that name. It's why I do this show. It's why, and do it for nothing, I may add, as a volunteer. It's why I write for the Alternative Weekly Press. If being an egotistical blowhard is the worst I have to suffer, it compares